Welcome to Healing Honeys, the podcast for girls with big dreams trying to balance it all. I'm Louise Rumball, serial entrepreneur, type A overachiever, healing girlie, and holistic wellness coach who also once got called the Jesus of modern dating. But let's get one thing straight. My healing era has never been calm. I'm talking savage dating stories, 20 cigarettes a day, daddy issues, an anxious attachment style, and an autoimmune disorder too. Today, I've spent thousands of dollars on healing and therapy, and now I'm here to guide you, love you, and laugh with you as I share my favorite tips, tricks, and rituals that have saved me along the way. With new episodes every Wednesday, expect girl talk, psychology, and the nervous system, as well as love, sex, and dating, wellness, fitness, and a little bit of business and spirituality too. So get in, honey. We are balancing healing, hustling, and life, and the best is yet to come. And if you're looking for ad-free listening or my somatic healing subscription daily devotion, just head over to the show notes. Now, let's get into it. Hi, my honeys, and welcome back to another episode of Healing Honeys, the podcast for women trying to balance it all. And there is so much for us to balance in today's world. That is why we are here, discussing everything that we are going through, how to work through it, how to navigate it, how to solve it. Now, if you are watching on video, remember you can watch on video on YouTube. You might be thinking, Louise, where are you? I've never seen this background before. And that is because I am in a workspace in Surrey, which is just outside of London in the UK. So if you already listened to last week's life update, I'm officially back in London, officially back in the UK. I'm back with my parents. And let me tell you, it has not been the easiest transition ever. And it's so hard for me because it's like I'm really homesick when I'm away, but coming home is also really difficult. And there's a lot to navigate, particularly being back in the family unit. You know, we've spoken about this so many times. And all you have to do is look at my nails to see the state of my life. Now, if you're just listening, you will see that I have 5 fingers and only 3 acrylic nails. So it has been a stressful few days transitioning with jet lag, transitioning with my parents. And this is the 3rd time that I have tried recording this episode. So I'm so excited to finally deliver it to you. It's got better and better every time that I've recorded it. So I can only imagine that this is going to be the best one yet. But wow. We try, we control life, we try to get everything aligned before we travel, knowing that we might not be able to do things when we arrive, there might not be internet, we might not have the bandwidth. And I tried everything to make this trip be an easy one, so I didn't stress myself out, so I didn't stress my family out. But this episode corrupted itself. So we are back here again. I've rented a workspace. I have 3 nails. I'm a bit of a mess, but today's episode is going to be anything but. And today's episode is something that I've never spoken about. It's something that I've never seen other people speaking about on their podcast. So I'm so excited to get into it. And this is basically the 5 ways that we can become more charismatic. And it's going to help us understand charisma. It's going to help us become more charismatic, because is there anything better than meeting someone and just feeling like, wow, like they were great to be around. They felt great. The conversation was great. You know, sometimes people say these people make you feel like sunshine. They're warm, they're loving, they feel good about life. And I would like to say that when I'm not jet lagged and stressed and financially stressed and stressed out by my family, all of the things that are going on right now, I would say that generally I like to think I'm quite a charismatic person, and I feel pretty confident in social situations. They normally always work in my favor. I feel like I know how to work with people and talk with people and make them feel good. So today I'm going to be sharing everything that I have learned through my own experience, but I'm also going to share what I have learned through researching charisma. And I'm going to be talking you through the 2 main markers of charisma, which is so interesting. We're going to be talking about a Princeton study on charisma that is also fascinating. And we're also going to be talking about energy, your electromagnetic field, your biofield, and how your emotional frequency and your energetic signature makes other people feel a certain way. And I know that we have all gone into social situations before and felt that someone around us is not good vibes, not good energy. Maybe they're moaning all of the time. Maybe they're agitated, depressed, lethargic. You have a totally different experience with that person versus the person that is smiley, the person that is engaging, the person that feels like sunshine. And today I'm going to dive in to what is happening in those situations so you can take home actionable tips and tricks that you can implement to change your energetic signature, your charisma, the way you engage with people in every area of your life. I'm talking business, I'm talking love, I'm talking dating, I'm talking friendship. Today's episode applies to everyone and every area of life. So if you're ready to get into it, I am ready too. Let's go. So I think that charisma is a pretty abstract word, if I'm totally honest. Like if someone said to me, how would you describe charisma? I don't know if I would be able to give you a specific definition. So I started my research for today's episode by looking into the meaning of charisma, and I stumbled across an amazing research study from Princeton. Now, in this study, they found that 82% of first impressions are based on two key factors, and that the people who were deemed to have the most charisma had a balance of both of these. Now, the two key factors are 1, warmth, and 2, confidence. Now, warmth is kind of that feeling when someone feels warm and they feel open, they feel like they look at you, they listen to you, they make you feel good. That's kind of the sunshine element. And confidence kind of leads into an ability to be taken seriously, a safety in being seen, a safety in being perceived, and the ability to sort of lead with authority, but knowing that they are important, they deserve to be there, and they are worthy. Now we're going to dive into all of these things and more. But what was so interesting was that in this study, the Princeton research team found that you needed a balance of warmth and charisma. If you were high in warmth but low in confidence, you were more likely to be really well liked, really friendly, but often you would be more of a people pleaser. So you would have less confidence to set boundaries, use your voice, and have difficult conversations. So if you have too much warmth but not enough confidence, then that doesn't always end up in you being charismatic. Because, there's always like the really nice girl, the really, really nice girl. The nice girl isn't always the charismatic girl. Am I right? And that's because she has a lot of warmth, but she doesn't have a lot of confidence. She just wants to be liked. Her nervous system might be more likely to go into the fawn stage of the nervous system where she will agree with everything you say. A charismatic person does not agree with everything you say. Now, the flip side of leaning too far in the other direction is if you have too much confidence, but you might be low in warmth. So what I mean by that is if that is you, you might be more likely to be respected and be seen as impressive, but people might find you less warm. So they might find you more intimidating, harder to connect with. They might relate to you less. They might not even be able to emotionally connect with you on any level at all. And so in this situation, you might be more likely to be taken seriously, but you don't create that warmth. You don't create that trust that the warm person would. So I think that this study is so interesting to understand what charisma actually is, because this study says that charisma is actually a balance of warmth and confidence. And what actually ties into the confidence is competence. Because when you believe that you are competent, when you believe that you are worthy of being somewhere, when you believe that you are worthy, that your voice is important, your contribution is important, then you are in turn confident. So for me, from a psychological perspective, charisma is this balance of warmth, confidence, and competence. And all of those three things tie in to becoming likable, respected, impressive, enjoyable to spend time with, and engaging. So if we want to dive into these a tiny bit deeper, I think we can then ask ourselves, well, what makes you confident or what makes you competent? And for me, I've done a lot of research into self-concept, into self-worth, into shame, etc., etc. And I believe that confidence and competence come from an inherent belief that we are worthy, that we are enough, that it's safe for us to be seen, it's safe for us to be perceived, that we matter, that our voice matters, that we should speak up in that meeting because what we have to say is important. And I believe that it's that self-worth that kind of ties through everything in all areas of our lives. Because if you have confidence and competence that is rooted in a strong self-concept, a strong self-belief, a good level of self-worth, then you are going to believe that you are worthy of setting standards. And not only are you worthy of setting standards, but that you are worthy of having those standards met by the people that you engage with. And equally, a confident person, a competent person, a person that believes in the importance of their boundaries and using their voice will stand up and speak when something is not right or doesn't work for them. So this confidence, this competence, inherently it was built through our childhood into a belief that we are worthy just as we are, who we are, for what we do and for what we have to say. And I think the problem in today's society is that a lot of confidence and a lot of competence is built through external achievements, external metrics, the size of your business, whether you're in a relationship, how your body looks, how many friends you have. And what I've seen in practice is that these things can be taken away at any minute. So they aren't really a true reflection of confidence or competence. So for me, I see that this point really is rooted in a belief that we are enough as we are, whatever we want to do, and whatever we want to do, we are capable of doing. Even if we need time to learn, even if we need time to train, it's sort of that belief of, if not me, then who? Now, if we ask ourselves the flip side question for warmth, this gets a bit more abstract. So I think if someone was to say to you, what makes someone warm? For me, it is a feeling. Okay, so we can say that if someone is warm, then they might express kindness or empathy or openness. But often what you will hear people say is they have good energy. Their presence just feels good, it feels safe, it feels uplifting, and it feels inviting. And that point about warmth brings me to my next point, which is that every single one of us has an emotional and an energetic signature. And that signature becomes our frequency, and our frequency defines our charisma. So the first rule in understanding how to build charisma is understanding what charisma is. And it is this balance of warmth, confidence, and competence. Now, the second way to increase your charisma is by understanding this concept of warmth, understanding how you can become a warm person and what being warm actually means. Because charisma is really about connection. And if we tie it back to that Princeton study, you don't connect with someone that is very confident and very competent, but that doesn't have this warmth, because they feel intimidating, they feel distant, they feel aloof, and you just feel like they don't really want to connect with you. Now, this point around warmth and your energetic signature is so fascinating to me. I am so obsessed with this work. And that is because I believe part of our charisma formula comes from something called our biofield. Now, every single cell in our body generates an electromagnetic charge. We are electromagnetic beings. That is the truth of it. This has been proved by science. All you have to do is Google electromagnetic field of the human body on Google and look at the most amazing, craziest images. We are literally batteries. But what's even more interesting is that we have an electromagnetic field that comes from our brain, and we have an electromagnetic field that comes from our heart. But the electromagnetic field of our heart is 5,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic field of our brain. Now, this biofield, in really simple terms, what is it? It's essentially this electromagnetic signature of who you are. And it's the sum of what is going on inside of your physical body. It's the sum of your thoughts, your emotions, the programs that are running, the frequency of each individual cell, because remember, cells become tissues, which become muscles and organs and systems, which all work together to be you, the beautiful bio-unique you. So the first thing to understand is that our biofield is made up by the frequency of our cells. Now, frequency sounds a little bit abstract, but Dr. David Hawkins, PhD, did a study on the consciousness of emotions. And he proved that emotions vibrate at different frequencies. And every emotion has its own frequency. So the lower vibrational emotions like shame and fear and anger, regret, sadness, and victim mode have a totally different emotional and electromagnetic and electrical frequency than the higher frequency emotions, such as love and joy and confidence, and most importantly, authenticity, like the safety to just be who you are. So if we think about how our emotions are vibrating at a frequency, and the frequency is basically building who we are, and that frequency is going out and is being emitted into our biofield, the next thing we have to understand is that the biofield is thought to spread around 3 to 5 feet around our physical body. Now, this is why you can feel if someone is walking behind you at night. You can sense if someone is in the space. This is sometimes where you might feel like you felt a ghost. It's because we have this space of almost perception around us, because our biofield extends outside of our body. And really, this is the energy that we are putting out into the world. Again, remembering the cells vibrate at a certain level, which get built into systems and organs, which get built into the human body, also vibrating at a specific frequency. Now, what is so important to understand here in terms of charisma is how important that heart space is and how important the electromagnetic signature of your heart is. And because it's 5,000 times stronger than your brain and the electromagnetic field of your brain, which is so crazy, this is why people say to you to lead from your heart, to lead with love, to have an open heart. Because what is going on in your heart is dictating not only how you feel, but it's also dictating your nervous system, it's also dictating your brain waves, and it's also dictating your biofield. So research has also shown that positive emotions, like the higher frequency ones that we've already spoken about, they create coherent heart rhythms. And what I mean by that is it's kind of stable heart rhythms, and this in turn impacts our brain waves. So good positive emotions lead to good positive experiences in the heart, in the brain, and really the whole body working in coherence. Now, if we think of this in terms of charisma and the biofield, your nervous system and the emotions that you are experiencing are impacting your heart and your brain waves, your heart coherence, and that is emanating out into your biofield. So if you are functioning in a state of positivity, hope, experience, happiness, joy, gratitude, you name it, you are going to have these emotions essentially being magnified out into your biofield, which is why, on the flip side, when you are going through a hard time, people can feel that around you. They can feel your energy by engaging with you, by being around you. And you know at a dinner party whether you get stuck next to someone good or someone bad. You know at a wedding whether you get seated next to someone good and open and fun and engaging and warm and confident, or if you get sat next to someone, in quotations, bad. Now, of course, they're not bad, but it's not such a positive experience because of what is going on within them and how that is emanating outside of them. So I think what's really important to understand for point 2 in building your charisma journey is understanding how your emotions impact your charisma. And that's because they impact the frequency of your cells. They impact your nervous system. They impact your heart rate coherence, and they impact your brain waves too. And we all know that if we hang out with someone who is anxious and is jittery and is in fight or flight, we often leave feeling anxious and jittery or in fight or flight as well. And that is because we really do experience the energy of others when we are with them. So the second key to building charisma is understanding how to regulate your heart-brain coherence, because that is the foundation of building a biology that is on your side that will naturally radiate confidence and warmth and competence and connection, all of the things that we've already spoken about as being the foundations of charisma. Because if you feel calm and grounded and happy and hopeful, people feel that. But if you feel anxious, self-conscious, stressed, or worse, in victim mode, depressed, really like going through those lower states of life that we have all experienced at some point, people pick up on that too. Because energy isn't something you say. Charisma isn't something you say. It is something that you transmit. It is something that you evoke in your energetic frequency around you. So this is my second secret to building charisma, and that is understanding that it starts from within. Now, you might have noticed that there is no ad roll on today's episode, and that is because today's episode is sponsored by Whoop, the wearable health and fitness coach that has totally transformed my life and that I have been using as a paying customer for years now. It helps me approach my sleep, my recovery, my fitness, how I structure my day, and really it just helps me connect inwards. So I can build a biology that allows me to be the most resilient, charismatic, and happy version of me. I'm so happy that by you listening to this episode today and you being on this self-development journey, I get to gift you a free Whoop 4.0 and your first month free subscription on Whoop. I'm going to link how you can do that in the show notes, but I want to just tell you a little bit more about how Whoop has helped me on my journey to becoming the most charismatic version of me and going after all of my dreams in business, in life, in love, you name it. Now, we've spoken in today's episode about how charisma is a psychological experience, but also a biological experience. And the inputs that we put into our life are what show up in our nervous system, and thus in our biofield, in the way that we present ourselves in this world. And for me, one of the things that I see the most charismatic and happy and confident people doing is prioritizing their sleep. Because we all know that if you say to someone, "How are you?" and they say, "God awful, I had the worst night's sleep," that it rattles them from the inside out. And the one massive thing that Whoop has helped me with is my sleep. Because trust me, if I do not get enough sleep, I do not show up as the best version of me at all. And I think there's been such an interesting development in the sleep space, particularly over the last few months and even year, which is that this whole time, so many sleep studies have been done on men. And we were told that women and men need the same amount of sleep. But what we are starting to learn is that actually females need more sleep, and particularly during different stages in our cycle, we need to rest more than men. But another thing that I've realized is that we today in modern society, which is so stimulating, so much blue light, so much stress, so much cortisol, as humans, we are just not spending as much time in the deep and REM stages of sleep as we need for that deep restorative healing and allowing you to wake up the next day feeling fully rested and recovered and ready to go. Now, I'll be honest, before I met my boyfriend, I was a 10 out of 10 sleeper. I'm talking, I literally would close my eyes at like 10:30, 11 p.m. and I would wake up 8 or 9 hours later, basically in the same position. And I really attribute my sleep to being one of the reasons that I could do it all historically. Run multiple businesses, go to the gym, work out, travel, you name it, I've done it all. But my boyfriend, he snores so badly. And if you follow me on Instagram, you will know this, that it has been so painful for me because I went from being a dream sleeper to being woken up quite literally 15 times a night on some occasions. And you bet that I have broken up with him many times during my sleep because it is so painful for me. And trust me, I could feel the difference the next day whenever I'd had broken or interrupted sleep. And I'm sure that if you are a mum, you can relate to this. But it wasn't until I got my Whoop a couple of years ago that it really started to communicate to me what was actually going on inside of my body. And I've said it once and I'll say it again, having my Whoop has allowed me to build this connection with myself where I actually listen to what is going on inside my body. Whereas the old me would have just like got up, would have been like, "Oh, I'm just going to have a triple espresso and another triple espresso." I don't even know if a triple espresso is a thing, but you bet that I was having it. And I was pushing on through. But having this recovery score on my Whoop has really helped me understand actually that my body needs something different today than on the nights that I'm sleeping well. But it's not just that. One of the reasons I love the Whoop is because it breaks down exactly the sections of sleep that you got, how much you got in each section, and which ones really you need more of. It also tells you what time you can go to bed the next day, and you can decide whether you want to just get by, if you want to perform. It really can help you structure your life with guidance that often just doesn't happen when we get into bed and we start scrolling. So I love the sleep guidance. I just love how it gives me an insight into my body other than, I think I feel okay, or I didn't sleep very well last night. It helps me actually make an action plan for the day ahead. And sometimes that might mean slowing down for a day, but it's so I can always speed up in the long term. Now, I know that some of us have sleep anxiety, and a lot of people listening to this will be like, "I don't want to track my sleep. Like, I'm scared to see how bad it really is." But for me, there is no shame or judgment or failing. The data on your Whoop is just an empowering tool to say, "Hey, I love you. We need to give this a little bit more love." Maybe we should see what happens if we don't have a coffee at 3 p.m. Maybe we should see what happens if I take a melatonin tablet, or I use blackout blinds, or I change the temperature in my room. And one of the coolest things about a Whoop is you can also log these things individually and see what happens to your recovery the next day. So you can do your own little tests and experiments with caffeine, or with sleeping in a bed with someone, or even having sex with someone. It is so cool how it connects the dots for you. So since tracking my life and my sleep routine with Whoop, I have made so many changes to my sleep to make sure that my boyfriend doesn't ruin my recovery every day of my life. And now I always go to bed at the suggested time on my Whoop. I will always sleep with an eye mask, blackout blinds, earplugs. I try never to drink caffeine after 4 p.m. I keep my bedroom cool and dark. I have a fan next to my bed. Sometimes I sleep with pink noise, which I absolutely love. And instead of just trying to push and power through, if I really am having a night where my boyfriend is waking me up all the time, I will go and sleep in the spare room or on the sofa. Because my Whoop has taught me there is no point in me pushing through when sleep, restorative sleep, is so important to how I show up in every area of my life. I know for a fact that I am nowhere near as charismatic on the nights that I haven't got a good sleep. I am grumpy, I am irritable, I am erratic. So one of my top tips for charisma is sleep, getting good, rejuvenating, resting sleep so you can wake up and be the best version of yourself. And if you're on that journey, Whoop is the health and fitness coach for you. By listening to this podcast, you get a free Whoop 4.0 band and your first 30-day free on your subscription. I am so excited to be able to offer you this. I wish I had had this years ago when I first discovered Whoop. Trust me, I ride or die for this brand. I will be using it for the rest of my life. I love it so much. So if you want to redeem that offer, make sure you go and do that in the show notes. Or you can head to join.whoop.com/Healing Honeys to try Whoop for 30 days free. And if you're already on Whoop, we're going to set up a community group for Healing Honeys and daily devotion so we can all continue healing together. Now, let's get back to the episode. Okay, so we are now on to point 3 of how to become a more charismatic human being. Point 1 was understanding what charisma is, which is warmth plus confidence plus competence. And the second tip is understanding how our emotions create our own emotional frequency, which emanate out into our biofield, which is felt by others. Now, my third tip is understanding how our body holds the score, and that way that we make other people feel, the way that our biofield is functioning, the way that our nervous system is functioning, is often not just a response of what is happening in the present day. Now, you probably heard someone before saying the body keeps the score, and I believe that this is very relevant to being confident and to being charismatic as well. And this is why I believe that faking charisma is kind of see-through, and we all know someone who kind of fronts and masks and pretends that they are super confident and charismatic, but you feel like your intuition that there is some kind of disconnect somewhere. You know that it's not really real confidence. So my third tip is understanding how to build actual confidence from the inside out. And for me, that starts with releasing the energetic frequencies that we might be holding on to from deep emotional wounds, experiences, limiting beliefs that are logged into our mind, our body, our soul, and more specifically, logged through our nervous system, our body, and our fascia, which has been proven to hold encoded memories and experiences that we haven't fully processed. Now, I will tell you, the more and more that I have gone on my healing journey, I will hang out with people, I will catch up with people, and they will just say, wow, you've just changed. You just feel lighter or brighter, or something feels different. And I believe that that's because I have done so much trauma healing work. I have done so much somatic work that I have released so much of the shame and the guilt and the sadness and the heartbreak and the thinking that I'm not enough and the pushing to be a certain version of me and the silence and the suppression of being scared to be myself and be authentic and use my voice. I have released so much of that I feel like I've cleaned the slate and opened it for me to be more real, for me to be happier, for me to be more confident. So if you are interested in trying to essentially release the energetic frequencies of what is holding back your biofield from being warm and charismatic and confident and having this root of self-esteem and self-worth that we spoke about in point 1, you're going to want to look into healing that is more like EMDR therapy rather than CBT therapy. You're going to want to look more into somatic healing rather than conscious mind-focused healing. And I always say that it's a case of releasing and expanding. Because when you release what is holding you down, when you release what is making you not feel good enough, you can then start to expand into a version of you that feels different, that feels better, and that can expand into spaces in a room when you walk into them. Instead of being weighed down by the past and the questions and the feelings of like, I'm not good enough, this isn't going to work for me, I don't deserve to be here. When you release them and you integrate them, you can then start to build new beliefs, which is like, I'm important, I matter, I'm worthy, and I deserve to be here. Now, I cover all of this in my Confidence Queen workshop. I quite literally go over the foundations of everything related to confidence from the subconscious mind and how it ties back to your childhood. So if you want to get into that, I'm also going to link it in the show notes alongside your free Whoop and your Whoop 30-day code, which is so exciting. But by this point, points 1, 2, and 3 on my charisma overhaul for you really relate to what is going on inside of your body. It really relates to your subconscious mind, it relates to your self-worth, etc., etc. Now, point 4 is the hacks in action. These are the 6 rules of charisma. And this is when you actually walk into a room, when you walk into a dinner party, when you walk into an event. These are the things that are going to help you on the external. Although we know that real charisma comes on the internal. So if you want to be more instantly charismatic, you need to master these 6 rules. The first one is the body language rule. So this is the 7-38-55 rule. What this means is that when you are perceived by other people, you are perceived by 7% on what you say, 38% on your tone and expression, and 55% on your body language. And this is crazy because it means the words and the things that you say are the least important to how people perceive you and are the least important to defining whether you're charismatic or not. And I think this is why often, particularly if you're like dating an insecure man and he's like fronting and he's like saying a lot of shit and trying to impress you, you kind of feel a bit icky because you feel in your heart, you feel in your soul, you feel in your biofield, which is absorbing their energy, that it's not real, it's not genuine, it's not coming from the inside of them. And that's because they're probably using the words, but their tone and their expression, their body language might not be matching. So with this rule in mind, we need to understand that the most important things when you are walking into a room are that you're standing tall, that you hold your shoulders back, posture is everything, and that you use eye contact and that you smile at people. Now, the next rule about charisma is that it's not about how you feel, it's about how you make other people feel. And if you think about the concept of being seen, heard, and remembered, you might be thinking, oh, okay, I need them to see, hear, and remember me. Incorrect. It is the reverse. Charismatic people see people, hear people, and remember them. They smile at them, they acknowledge them, they ask them questions, they listen, they are interested in them, they follow up with them, they remember their name. This is how someone makes you feel special and important. They engage with you and they engage directly, rather than having a conversation with you and looking around the room to see who else they could be speaking to. Because there is no feeling worse than that. Am I right? Okay, my third tip for the in-room charisma hacks is that you need to pause when you are speaking. There is something calm and confident about charismatic people. They don't respond instantly. They don't agree with everything you say. They take a 1 to 2 second pause in between conversations. Sometimes they will even think about what you have to say and come back with an interesting answer rather than just agreeing with everything for the sake of it. Now, my fourth hack is to be fun, to be jokey, to crack jokes. You know, I have always cracked jokes in business. I've had great relationships with all of the people that I've worked with. There is a time for jokes always. But what I will say is it is never about using humor too much. Because someone who overuses humor too much either won't be taken seriously, or it actually shows that they might have the warmth, but they don't have the confidence. And that's because humor is often used as a deflection and a deflectory, not sure if that's a word, tactic. Because you'll all know someone that's just like funny all the time. And what I've realized is that intense funniness is often covering up some level and layer of insecurity that they don't actually feel charismatic and confident about on the inside. Now, finally, my sixth tip about walking into a room is that charismatic people don't pretend to be perfect. Being charismatic does not mean that you are perfect. They are actually self-aware, they are self-reflective, they are self-introspective. They are unafraid to own their perfections, to own their story, to be honest and open about what they have gone through. And you hear often like people saying, oh, I met this girl, she had like 2 or 3 million followers, but like there was just nothing there. There was like no connection, there was no fun, there was no warmth. And that's often because these individuals are less comfortable with owning their insecurities or owning their flaws, because as one very small example, without being too generalized, their whole life, their whole Instagram feed is built around this curated version of them. But what I will say is I have shared my entire life on this podcast, the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs, the lows. And when you guys text me, you say, I want to hang out with you. Like, I wish we were friends in real life. And That for me is what warmth is, sharing that we are not perfect, sharing that we all have gone through things that make us who we are, that have hurt us, that have held us back, rather than pretending to be perfect, because being perfect is not being charismatic. Okay, now as we come to the end of today's episode, my very final rule on how to be more charismatic in life is to understand, if not you, then who? Now, this is something that I live my life by. I swear my day-to-day life by, because as I shared in the first section of today's episode, charisma is about warmth plus confidence and competence. But many of these things actually tie back to a belief that we are worthy of being here, that we are worthy of being confident, that we are worthy of being charismatic. And what I also see is that those of us who have been wounded in that area, maybe through the mother wound, maybe through the father wound, maybe through some experience at school like bullying, maybe through having our heart broken or being cheated on, maybe through the sibling dynamic that we have in our family, at some point, many of us have picked up some level of internal shame, which we take on board as internalized shame. And what I mean by that is we hold this silent belief that we're not really worthy, that things aren't really going to work out for us, and it's probably going to work out for someone else rather than us. So as we come to end today's episode, I want you to think, if not you, then who? Because no one will ever be you, and that is your power. And charisma isn't about being the loudest or the most extroverted. Charisma is not about being the most intelligent or being the funniest. Charisma is not about being the prettiest. Charisma is about the way you make people feel. It is about the way that you connect with someone. It is the energy you bring to a conversation. It is the warmth that you bring to them that they feel through engaging with you. It is the confidence that you hold within yourself. And these things are all actually reflections of our relationship with ourselves. We are never going to emanate a hugely positive, warm, and loving relationship to the outer world in a real, true, authentic way that is not a mask if we don't learn to build that warm, loving, and authentic self within. And that relationship within. So that's why I say, if not you, then who? Why is there a reason that anyone in this world deserves anything more than you? Why should they succeed and not you? Why could it not be you? Because when you start to understand how really charisma starts within, and charisma starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves, and it then emanates out around us into our relationship with others, into how we connect with people, into how we hold ourselves, into how we walk into a room, that is when you realize that you can start building your charisma at any moment, because you can start building your warmth, you can start building your confidence, and you can start building your competence. And if you are not in a situation or an arena or an environment where the people around you are not loving you, are not supporting you, are not believing in you, are not saying you are amazing, you can do this, I believe in you, I love you, I support you, then that is part of the problem. To be charismatic, we need to believe in ourselves. To be confident, we need to believe in ourselves. And sometimes we have that taken away from us. So we need to rebuild that. But we also need to put ourselves in places and friendships and relationships and workspaces where other people believe in us too. Because when we have both of those things, we can start to build our warmness, our confidence, and our competence. And all of those things start from within. That is it, my honeys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sorry about the slightly budget background and my slightly budget messy bun. I am jet lagged as hell after my return to the UK, but fingers crossed that this is the last time I'm going to have to record this episode, because every single time I've recorded it, it's come out totally different, and I'm pretty happy with today's episode. If you enjoyed this, please share it with someone that you think also might take benefit from it. I would love to understand your thoughts on charisma and how you feel like you have learned to connect inwards with your body, to build that connection, to build that expansion, and to lift your head up, pull your shoulders back, and smile to the world around us. You can message me whenever. I would love to hear from you. But most of all, thank you for streaming the podcast. I will be back very soon, and I love you guys so much. Goodbye.